Welcome to the podcast. Súbele volumen. Conversation with the people who were with me. In the world of TV. Carlos tonight. Historias de un reportero. Carlos tonight. Dale que viene lo bueno.
Hey everybody, welcome to Carlos Tonight. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. I really appreciate it. Before we begin, I want to invite you to check out my website, carlostonightpodcast. There, you can find more information on the podcast, see upcoming guests, and check out past episodes. That's carlostonightpodcast.com. This week, I want to introduce you to Jane Marla Robbins. She is a multi-talented actress and author who keeps busy with public speaking and being an acting coach. Hey, Jane, how's it going?
I'm thrilled to be here. We finally figured out the technological genius of your program. And there's a frame around me, which is yellow, which matches the yellow sweater that I wore because I thought I would not be on camera so I don't look like I have jaundice. Anyway.
I'm so glad you're here. So before we begin, I want to talk to you about your acting career. So before I became a journalist, there was a period that I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I spent some time trying to figure out, like a year trying to figure it out. And one of the things that I tried out was acting school. And so I did that for about a year. I had so much fun. Tell me the moment that you knew that you wanted to pursue a career in acting.
Probably I was in my mother's womb because she named me Jane Marla Robbins because she thought it was a good name for an actress and I wanted to please my mother. I mean, I was attached to her on an umbilical cord and she was responsible for my staying alive. So luckily I had some talent and I did it for a long, long time. And then at one point I realized my challenge, my goal in my life was not to play other characters, but to learn how to be Jane Marla Robbins. And I kind of got in through the back door because there was a slow point in my getting movie roles. And I thought, okay, extra income. And I thought, well, what can I do? And I realized I could coach acting. I knew many techniques, but somehow in my head, I got the idea, I'm not going to teach people to be other people. I'm going to use these techniques to help people be themselves, their most authentic self, their most joyful, self-confident self. And it turns out that career is probably the most rewarding in my life.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you, God.
So
I know where it comes from.
So tell us a little bit about some of the projects that you were involved in as an actress.
My first California role was in a film which was independent and a black sheep, and we just did it for the hell of it because the guy who wrote the screenplay was insisting on playing the lead, so it took him forever to find a producer. And as you know, the film was called Rocky. It became Rocky 1. I was in Rocky 2 and 5. I had a great time. I'm still getting residuals, and I'm very proud of that work. Rocky 1 was an extraordinary experience for all of us. And I know that film inspires so many people. And I knew film could inspire people. I could not believe my last book, which is about the autoimmune disease, which I've been dealing with now for 3 years. I couldn't believe that doctors would find this comedic, serious, poetical, odd book and start giving it to their patients because they find it helps the patients feel and get better. Words, Carlos, words and honesty and revealing yourself and maybe God. I don't know. It's the Sabbath, so I'm full of God today. I'm feeling very grateful for everything in my life.
Well, we're grateful to have you here.
Thank you.
And so before we get to your book, quick question about being on the set, on a movie set. First of all, what's that like? Is it intimidating?
Probably the answer is yet, but I never realized that I was always comfortable on stage, as if I was meant to be a rabbi or a priest in front of a congregation. And I did a lot of one-man shows in New York. So there was my congregation, and my job was to elevate the consciousness. A movie camera was very different because the camera itself reminded me of a traumatic man in my young childhood. So it was always a challenge. On the other hand, I have to tell you, I was dating the director, John Avildsen, on Rocky. So I felt very safe. I had prepared for the role, so I knew what to do. Actually, I thought I knew what to do. I didn't. If you read my book, Acting Techniques for Everyday Life, you will read that the director had told me, Jane, you have to be really mean so we really have sympathy for Adrienne. Well, short of putting out cigarettes in the fish tanks, I was mean. And Sylvester Stallone stopped the cameras. He wasn't directing officially. He called John over and said, why is she being so mean? John came back to me, and I had worked with a coach. He said, Jane, not so mean. And frankly, Carlos, I didn't know what to do. But as I said, I felt supported. Like me, Stallone had written himself a script and had refused every other offer except him playing the role. And I had very little time because we didn't have a lot of money. Cameras were running, that costs. Didn't know what to do. Inspiration. I see birdseed. I put some in my hair. I'm shaking my head. If you see that scene in the pet shop, because I'm the pet shop owner, I'm a weird lady. I wasn't that mean. And that's how that character was born. So I felt supported. So it was creative. It was our first shot for everybody. It was not John. John was already then a well-established director who is probably by smart people understood as a genius.
What's that like being able to share that moment, that experience on the Rocky movies with not only your students, but your family and your friends?
I say, go watch the film. And I tell them the story that I told you. And it's one of many, many roles that I've had in a long career. I was commissioned by the Kennedy Center to write myself a one-woman play about Mozart's sister. And I did it there. I did it at the Kennedy Center. So talk about intimidation. And in New York, I was followed by the New York Philharmonic playing Mozart. There's a lot to be grateful for and a lot to be overwhelmed by. And in fact, when students come to me, and I know I have to say, oh, you should trust me. I know I'm a kook, but look, I have really impressive credits. So I'm legitimate because nobody was teaching acting techniques for everyday life. When I thought of the idea and I mentioned to people, they thought it was like a kooky scam. And even the book couldn't get published, the book Acting Techniques for Everyday Life, until Disney turned it down and said, well, I'm sure you're a wonderful teacher, Jane, but, there's no scientific data. So I dug up the data, Carlos.
Yes.
All of these acting techniques have been scientifically studied, different names for each of the techniques, but used in hospitals and by therapists and doctors everywhere.
Wow.
So actors who began to act how many thousands of years ago as priests initially, they've known these techniques, but they didn't have science to prove something they knew.
Mm-hmm. When you work with students in your acting classes, do you kind of have to kind of knock some sense into them, thinking, like if I'm a student and I go into an acting class, I already have a big head, I think. And I'm going to get that movie role. I'm going to do that TV pilot. But it's not like that, right? You have to start small and then work hard, right?
I think every career is different, just like every psychophysical instrument of the actor and of the human being. I know when I was teaching actors, they came to me a lot for private coaching. And then I just focus on what the audition is, how they can make it most original, most authentic. when I teach non-actors how to become themselves with joy and authenticity, they don't come in with big heads. They come in humble and scared. And my job is to take them from that fear of being themselves through the desert, out of that slavery, through the desert into the freedom of finally being themselves. I think if there is some pearly gate when we die, St. Peter or whoever is there is not going to say to me, why weren't you a better Hamlet? He's going to say, why weren't you a better Jane Marla Robbins?
Gotcha. Jane, tell me about this book that you recently wrote. Was it difficult sharing, such personal things about yourself with the world?
I'm sure it was, and clever you for knowing that. I think I was so sick and so crazy and so angry that doctors did not know at all what to give me. I showed up at the hospital half paralyzed with symptoms of my autoimmune disease, myasthenia gravis. And I heard the doctors say, gee, what should we give her? Give her everything. Maybe something will work. So I think I was terrified that I was half paralyzed, realizing that no one really knew what to give me any kind of relief. I was there for 12 days, but somehow I was born with this brain and this creativity. And it was so outrageously difficult in the hospital. The only way I think I could survive it was to imagine this bizarre outline for a musical, which people are even thinking of putting on as a musical. Later, I think, when I reveal the whole book, or I just wrote a poem and it's being sent to all these hospitals, then I get shy. Oh, I'm so naked. What will happen to me? Will someone hurt me? No, Jane, it's finally safe to be visible, which has been a challenge. Believe it or not, though I was an actress for 50 years and I've been doing YouTubes of all 6 of my poetry books. You can see me reading poems from all 6 books. Dogs and Topanga, COVID-19 poems. What else? Poems of the Laughing Buddha, ha, ha, ha. So I've not been invisible, Carlos, as are you now. I mean, I think Sir Laurence Olivier was once asked by Dustin Hoffman, why do you think you became an actor? And Sir Larry leaned over his desk and said, look at me, look at me. And I think that's the impulse of the actor, to be seen, not to be seen as himself, but it's still his body there being seen. And here I see you online. So actor or no actor, of course you're acting. You're not going to say to somebody, what a stupid thing. It's like, is this woman crazy? No, you're acting, but still it's a very strong self. It's a wonderful self that you project. It feels authentic to me and full of humor and grace and generosity and heart. Can't beat that.
Yeah, thank you. Was it or when someone gets your book, what's one thing that you want them to walk away with?
Joy. A lot of people who are sick are, for some reason, finding it. Doctors are recommending it because the doctors see that by reading this book, patients feel better and get better. I think this is because there's so much laughter. People say they laugh out loud when they read this book. And once you're open and laughing, it's a very open place to be. It's a kind of like orgasm. You're that open. So when the lessons come in, when my feelings, which I just write that way, I write totally honestly. If you see in the book, there's even a poem about orgasms. I just write what's immediate to me, what's honest to me, and then I can throw poems out. But I think when people, sick or not sick, read it, I think they're open through the laughter to the honesty, and they are allowed to look at the feelings within themselves. They're brave enough, and they're not alone, particularly if you're sick, to watch me go through feelings of doubt, despair, joy, hope, and to end at the end of the book as if healing seems on the way, gives people hope. depending what the reader might need. I love giving people hope. I love inspiring people. I love making people feel better. That seems to be a theme in my life, doesn't it?
Sometimes hope is all we have, right?
If we're lucky. And even in the book, there's despair, because I think sometimes the only way you get to hope is if you allow yourself to hit the bottom, and then there's nowhere to go but up.
Right.
And I think, yeah, for me, whether it's a gift or an albatross, I seem to be given a karma of feeling it all. So I go from despair to ecstasy, and the readers follow me.
How long did it take you to create that book?
I'm not even sure. I know I was in a kind of a haze. It took me a long time to recover from being in the hospital. I couldn't chew. I love food passionately. Well, obviously, I do a lot passionately. I couldn't chew. So I really had to work hard at just getting my body back. But I never stopped writing. And I guess I got out of the hospital. The book came out a year ago. I wrote a lot of it in the year before. I thought I was going to self-publish through an Amazon arm, but for some reason, the people they gave me didn't understand the book. So, I mean, if that wasn't God doing what I couldn't do for myself, because what happened was they kept getting it wrong for 6 months. And in those 6 months, I got better. Yeah. I could chew, I could walk, I could talk. I wasn't seeing double. So the end of the book, mercifully, shows a healing body full of hope. And that's the message.
I'm so happy about that.
I believe we can heal from whatever we have. Maybe it's only increments, but man, when you can't see, if you can suddenly see, it's huge.
Oh man, I can imagine. Wow. Tell us, Jane, where we can find the book and where we can find you and connect with you.
Good questions. All right. God bless us all. The book is everywhere, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, at your local bookstore. That's the book. It is probably available on my website. My website, JaneMarlaRobbins.com. Should be easy. And there are a few quotes from the book. There will be a video. I did a huge book launch and read like a lunatic, got applause like I never thought I'd receive in my life. It was like a rock concert, because it was 200 people from Topanga all rooting for me. And after that, I learned another lesson from my Asthenia Gravis. Don't push yourself. Rest. I thought I had my old body. No. The new newspaper article I am writing it's a period of adjustment. Actually, I'm writing that down, because losing your old identity is not easy. I'm used to going 900 miles an hour, doing 170 things to promote a book. This disease steals your energy. So I am learning for the first time in my life to slow down. A challenge. Okay, so JaneMarlaRobbins.com. You can see me reading poems from the other books, because the camera at the book launch was not working. Don't ask how I feel about that.
That happens to us.
It happened. But what's interesting is I think 3 of those books are books where people still call me and say, Jane, I woke up so depressed this morning, and I picked up poems of the Laughing Buddha or Dogs in Topanga, and now I'm not depressed. And the first times I heard that, I went, really? It's just words, it's just poetry. But I think where there's a voice that's committed to joy and going the trip from depression or worry, despair or confusion through a healing into joy, I think that somehow communicates in my work.
That's so awesome that you get to share it all, and you're making a difference.
So grateful, so grateful.
Jane, do you have any upcoming projects or anything like that? And know you seem like you're very busy.
Well, who knows when I will actually record some of these poems. Doing it to a live audience was my life and joy, to interact. Okay, I don't know if this disease, until I'm a little more recovered, will allow me to do that. I do have 2 books on back burners. I feel at least through the end of the year, my job is to speak with doctors and make sure the book is getting out there and helping more people. Big job.
That is a big job. Thank you so much, Jane, for sharing your book and your career and your life with us. I really appreciate it. Good luck with everything. God bless you.
And I had a great time. You are awesome, Carlos. Thank you.
In the world TV, Carlos tonight, historias de un reportero.
And that's all the time we have. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, check us out at carlostonightpodcast.com. We'll see you next time.
Dale que viene lo